Hello, this is Miss Evelyn with the CNM Veterinary Technology Program, and this is in the course VT 1011, and this is the cattle breed PDF or PowerPoint, and I'm going to lecture through this. So this is focusing on cattle breeds that are common in the Southwest, since that is where our school is located in New Mexico. So these are breeds that you need to know for test day and that you will see frequently in our area of the country. So the cattle industry really is a major part of our Southwest agricultural industry. It brings in a lot of financial economic side between the raising of the cattle, the transportation of cattle, cattle feed, processing plants, etc. So it is really important to understand a few facts about this industry. And there are two sides when we talk about cattle, okay? They are used primarily for beef and or for dairy products. Of course, if you have a dairy cow that calves and has a calf that is a male calf, they can't really get more milk from that one, so it may go off to market, be raised by 4-H or something on that order, or of course once in a while some will be saved to be bulls into that herd. But we have either beef or dairy as the focus of our cattle. So our first ones that we're going to look here at the industry is really the beef side of the industry. So there's kind of three areas that we talk about: veal, regular beef, and other byproducts that we might have. So veal really technically are the young calves, the meat of the young calves, less than 3 months of age. And some people will have different opinions of whether or not we should be doing that even, but it does exist, and you do need to realize that that is part of the cattle industry in some areas, would be to have veal production. And so the calves are actually fed a very specific diet to keep the color of the lean meat in the carcass a very light pink. And so quite often they're fed only a diet of milk. So veal, very young calves that have gone to market. Beef, when we say the term beef, we're probably referring to the meat of cattle, or of course the beef cattle that are still living. But cows also that are no longer profitable may go to the meat production for beef and sold for slaughter and used for beef. And also beef would be also the male offspring that are not utilized in a breeding plan. And then other byproducts that we may have, various parts of the cattle, the carcass itself, the fat, the bones, certain glands will come into different areas of production, the intestines, brains, heart, and many other parts of the carcass itself. And so byproducts from this that might be produced can include, of course, cat and dog food, various medicines, marshmallows, cosmetics, some furniture, and clothing, especially when we think about hides as leather. So when we think about dairy production, this is the milk products or the fluid that is consumed, sold to processing plants, and they can produce things like cheese, yogurt, ice cream, etc. from the milk if it is not staying as a milk product solidly. Sold to dehydration plants to make powdered milk for an increased shelf life of the product. And also sold to processing plants that produce protein powders and other dietary supplements. So when you talk about the dairy production for it, it is not just the milk that we drink in a glass, but also our cheese, our yogurt, our ice cream, and then dehydrated powders and other products, dietary supplements. In the cattle industry, we really have a breeding system involved. So a definition of breed, okay, and this is actually going to follow through most of our large animals that we will be introducing you to in this class, that the definition of breed is a stock of animals or plants. Of course, we're talking about the animal world here, within a species having a distinct appearance and typically having been developed by deliberate selection. So a lot of our breeds in both dairy and beef cattle have been developed specifically for their build, for what they're producing. If they're a dairy cow, how much milk can they produce? That's really what they're looking for. And in beef, they want a certain build and size when they go off to market. So when we talk about breeding systems, there's 3 main breeding systems. So again, as you look at this PowerPoint, you may want to consider trying to do an outline with our industry in general, and then the beef side, the dairy side, the products you would get from beef, the products you may get from dairy. And now we come into 3 breeding systems. You have purebred, outcrossing, and crossbreeding. So purebred would be certainly your male and female of the same breed. And this will improve our herd by keeping registration papers. We're looking for certain genetics in there, familiarity of genetics. And they prone to health risks or environmental non-adaptation. So because they're purebred, they may not be as hardy in some situations. So outcrossing is where you take purebred male and female of the same breed, but it is certainly from a different stock. So there's hybrid vigor within this breed. So they are not related in any way. They do not have that genetic familiarity. And then crossbreeding, either terminal or mixed, is where you have purebred or mixed female and male, all from different breeds. And quite often there is a higher production for the calves, maybe even a larger weight, and more resistance to disease quite often. But on the other hand, you probably are not able to register these animals, or certainly as a purebred or outcrossed. Okay, it's so difficult to also predict what the offspring may be like. So now we're going to wander into some specific breeds, both on the beef side and the dairy side, that you will need to know for this class in the quizzes and so forth, test elements. So we're going to start off by looking at beef breeds. In our cattle breeds, beef. And the very first one is Angus, also known as, so AKA, also known as an Aberdeen. Aberdeen by breed name. Originally from Scotland, and some of these facts you should make note of and possibly be ready for a quiz day, but originally from Scotland, all blacks, which serves as sunblock, or there can be some red Angus also, and there's an interesting history that's based on this color. When a cow or cow individual from cattle is born without horns, will not have horns, they call that naturally polled. So P-O-L-L-E-D is the word. That if an animal is polled, it does not have horns. So Angus are naturally polled. They do not grow horns. The size of the males can be around 2,000 pounds and females around 1,150. So pretty good size. And Angus tend to have a very high quality beef with excellent, as they call it, marbling, the amount of fat in there. Even with feeding disturbances. So even if they get kind of disturbed while they're feeding and so forth, they still have excellent marbling. Consumer demand leads to this certified Angus beef program. And so if you go into your market and you see something that says Angus beef, you know that you're going to be probably paying a little higher price for that. Angus tend to be very hardy. They can live in any environment, and they're also less prone to disease. They're pretty docile, and their bulls are excellent cross breeders. and they'll yield calves that are polled. Again, no horns. And the cows, so you have bulls are the male intact, cows would be female intact. They have easy calving. So calving, C-A-L-V-I-N-G, is the term for a cow when it gives birth. You have two pictures, and I would recommend that you study these pictures well. If you have a means to actually save them and put them on flashcards, that may be a really great way to be able to recognize this and say, this is a Black Angus, an Aberdeen, Black Aberdeen. You'll also notice that this one has a brand on its shoulder. And here in New Mexico, you will see a lot of brands on cattle and even on horses, as we're what's called a brand state, B-R-A-N-D. Here is a red Angus, a bull, with a little bit higher neck area, red Angus. So that was the Angus beef breed. The next beef breed is going to be the Brahman, sacred cattle of India. So originally from India. They tend to have a very large hump around the aspect of the neck and the shoulders, and they also have a very large, what they call throat latch and dewlap, loose skin underneath that throat area. And their ears tend to be large and pendulous. By that, they tend to hang almost down or flop around a lot more. And with the Brahman, the horns are curved upward and toward the back. You'll see that in the picture here shortly. They have very highly developed sweat glands, and they'll sweat more freely, and therefore they're able to really help in hot climates. And sometimes they're actually utilized in a breeding program to bring that heat almost resistance, or at least tolerable to heat, into a breeding stock. They secrete sebum, S-E-B-U-M, sebum, with a distinct odor that might repel insects. That's supposed to be odor that repels insects. And the males, again, are well over 2,000 pounds, and the females around 1,500. The Brahman's disposition might be a little more questionable. They're very intelligent, inquisitive, but also shy, so they might respond very nicely to good handling, but also be very bad if it's bad handling. So with really good care, they can be docile like the Angus. They're known as the crossbreed's common denominator. They're excellent crossbreeders because they add all of these items from above into the hybrid vigor, as we call it. Very hardy, less prone to disease, and again, they can do very well if they're fed poor feed. Meat quality is very high, quality lean. So here's a picture of two Brahman bulls. So you see that dewlap, that throat latch, loose skin underneath the neck and between the front legs, and then that hump. So remember these pictures. These are bulls. They are intact. And you can tell the musculature. And again, their horns kind of are a little stubbier and up front. Probably one of the main breeds that we see in the United States throughout, and a lot here in the Southwest, is the Hereford breed of beef, H-E-R-E-F-O-R-D, Hereford. And it's actually from England. They are various shades of red with white, and typically the face is white, and it might travel down into the ventral aspect. So this is where terminology is important to bring it together as to how we might describe some of these markings. And then also not only the ventral aspect down their throat latch area, but down into the medial aspects between the legs. The males and the females are a little smaller than other two breeds that have been introduced to. And you can have polled or non-polled Herefords where they do have horns. Do remember what the term poll, P-O-L-L, means. that if they're polled, they do not have horns, and then if it's non-polled, they do have horns, whether that is natural or by a surgery. Early maturity on these cattle, good fertility, easy calving, and their mothers tend to be very good with the calves. High performance when there is a forage-based diet, and don't have to really feed a very complicated feed regimen. They like more temperate climates, so again, you might see a breeding plan deep in the Southwest that would incorporate a Brahman and Hereford to get some of that heat tolerance. And a very docile disposition, hardy, and very long, good long life, longevity. So this is a picture of what we're talking about, the white face, and then the ventral portion and the medial aspect between those legs. So a little bit of different quantities of white, but the white does not tend to come up onto the upper part of the body. It is the facial area and down between the chest and underneath the belly aspect. And then you may have white on the legs, and maybe the tail could also incorporate some white. The Hereford breed of beef. Charolais from France. Charolais, C-H-A-R-O-L-A-I-S. And I always recommend that you speak those words out with me, even though this is an online environment. You can say Charolais with me or right afterwards. Another beef breed. These tend to be a white or a sort of creamy white in color. Again, the males tend to be much larger, 1.5 tons, females around a ton. They can again be naturally horned but bred to be polled. That term again, polled, no horns. Excellent terminal crossbreeders, they say, to get more muscle weight. And that considers to be an added value to this breed. They have a superior growth rate, younger age at finishing. So finishing is when they go to market while meeting preferred specifications. And again, a little more late maturity instead of early maturity. Disposition can tend to be a little bit skittish to even aggressive, and they might tend to fight with each other, especially bulls upon bulls. Meat tends to be more lean with a very good fat content, and they can have some health issues of sunburn, a condition called pink eye or cancer of the eye. Those are different conditions, and they may have a little bit more difficulty in calving with prolapse and dystocias. Dystocias, nice medical term there, meaning painful birth. And maybe a little bit more of a need for high feed and forage needs. So very muscular, almost looking a little bit more like the Hulk, the Charolais. And they can have be polled or non-polled, as this bull picture is. Very muscular looking. Another one from France called the Limousin, a beef breed, Limousin. This tends to have more of a light wheat to a darker golden red in the colors. Again, quite large in your males, well over a ton, your females around a ton. They can be, again, naturally horned, but can be bred to be polled, to be born without those horns. They're very sturdy breeds, so unusual sturdiness, adaptable, and very few health issues. And not only used as beef, but really also as a very good draft animal to pull a cart, a wagon, or something on that order. And they can withstand very cold temperatures, and they like to calve year-round, even out in the open fields. And they need less feed supervision due to their adaptability. Even though they can calf out in the open fields, they do tend to maybe have some lower birth rates, but also with less calving issues. So disposition, a little bit volatile, maybe unpredictable. So if you were to go out and help on a call, a farm call to a Limousin, you may want to really watch your back. Always with any large animals, always keep a way of escape in mind. and they can clear high fences with ease. Meat quality is lean with a very fine meat texture. So this kind of cream colored. So we have a bull on the left, again fairly muscular, has kind of that hump around the front of the head, very thick in the neck area, and then a cow, a little leaner look, but that cow, nearly 2,000 pounds of her, off to the right hand side. You see her nicely shaped udder. Know the difference between the bull and the cow. So after the limousine, we're going to cover a couple of the breeds that are really dairy production and are main one in the United States, and you'll see it down here in the breed facts. About 90% of our dairy cattle in the U.S. are Holsteins. Holstein, Holstein. And they're from Netherlands. It's the most popular breed. On the average, they produce a large amount of milk per cow, and they are black and white. Now, your females, you notice that they are smaller from our previous beef breeds, but about 1,300 pounds. They tend to be polled, no horns, and their milk quality has a very it's lower in butter, fat, and protein. So the Holstein, know this one. Know the picture, know that you will be seeing this one in our Southwest area and other dairy production area of the United States. The black and white can be at a variety of kind of amounts and patterns, but they do tend to have this black and white look to them. Holstein. The Ayrshire from Scotland, dairy breed. Again, very strong feet and legs, they say, good grazing ability. And when we look at a dairy cow, we really want to look how the udder is, and they tend to have a very well attached udder. Calves are quite hardy with vigor, and they tend to be sort of light to a dark cherry red, browns with white in any kind of combination. They are naturally horned, but usually dehorned calves. Again, a little larger maybe than our, a little larger than the Holstein, around 2,000 pounds. Females about the same, and a moderate butter fat. So for milk production, we do look at butter fat and such things. This is an example of the brown and white pattern of an Ayrshire. And again, if it's a dairy breed, you want a very nicely shaped udder. You want equally placed teats so that the automated dairy machines can go on easily and get a good milking done. Ayrshire. And brown Swiss from Switzerland, very docile, used as beef cattle sometimes. It is the second highest milk yield, so pound for pound. They're also very resistant to cold and heat, so they come out of Switzerland. So again, up in the Alps or so forth, they're very solid and durable as far as a breed is concerned. They're a solid brown, and yet their nose and tongue are black. And they tend to have light colored band around the muzzle with very large fuzzy ears. Females a little larger than a couple of other dairy breeds, around 1,400 pounds, and they actually say that the milk quality has a higher fat and protein ratio than the Holsteins, and these are ideal for cheese making. So this very kind of beigey brown with that black nose and black tongue, and a lot of times that light color right around that nose muzzle area. But they tend to be very solid in color. You might see a little bit of the variance in the shade. And again, this is a dairy cow with her very nicely shaped udder on this one. And I believe this is our last breed, the Jersey, also from France, from the Isle of Jersey, Channel Isle of Jersey. Very docile and inquisitive. It is really helpful that our dairy cattle tend to have very good attitudes because they are handled frequently, and of course, that helps them also have a good attitude. They tend to be a smaller breed, the Jersey, with a high fertility rate. Very low maintenance, as they say, with high milk production. They calve easily, and they're very good in a crossbreeding program with less dystocia. So we had the word dystocia in one of those other beef breeds, and here you have a Jersey that has less painful giving birth, less dystocia. All shades of brown with a lighter band around the muzzle, but not white as we saw in our brown Swiss. And they call it the switch, which is the end of the tail, is black, and the hoofs are typically black. Males a little smaller, and our females definitely smaller, and these are very ideal into our cheese making. And here is a photograph of our Jersey, usually a very sweet looking cow, again kind of a dark nose, but this is more ruddy reddish brown versus the brown Swiss, which is more suede-like in color. And then at the end is a references from Oklahoma State University Animal Science. It's a great website to go out to, and also New Mexico State University Cooperative Extension Service. Credits for their photographs and so forth. So with that, enjoy reviewing your cattle breeds common in the Southwest, and understand these 9 to 10 breeds that are listed, and pick out a few of their major points for your study. And thank you very much.